I don't do 1 a.m. walks anymore. I used to always recommend that everyone at least once in their lives experience the 1 a.m. walk. It's truly a magical time, no one around to hear you sing your favorite songs, no one to see you do a bad dance on the sidewalk. And best of all, no one else is out and about to bother you. I would never recommend them now after what happened to me. That was the night I met him. I knew that I walked a bit too far from my home when I realized that I still had another 2 miles to go, as my legs began to burn with exhaustion. I tried to ignore it, trying to think about how nice it was going to feel to crawl into my soft, warm bed and finally get some sleep. Normally I would listen to some music, but my phone had died a mile back. So the quiet city was my only company. I could hear the far-off noises of the occasional car, an ambulance miles away, and the sudden noise of someone behind me. I turned around to see someone covered in a bedsheet, their body mostly obscured by the pictures of Elmo and his gang. While I have run into the homeless before on my walks, even they usually were asleep at this time. The person under the bedsheet continued their walk towards me, taking 2 large steps, then sliding their opposing foot to stand at attention. I dealt with weirdos before on a walk like this. They never meant any harm, just in their own little world and didn't want to be bothered. Usually they always want their own space, of which I always gave them happily. I glanced up and down the road, no one, and made my way to other sidewalk. My walk continued, but I could still hear them on the other side, continuing their repetitive walk. Their loud stomping snapped my neck around. Whoever was under that bedsheet had sprinted across the road, joining me on the same sidewalk again. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as I felt the creepiness set in. It was at least 2 a.m. now. What was this guy doing outside? Why was he covered in a bedsheet? And why was he walking like that? I picked up the pace, much to the complaint of my legs, the burning feeling becoming stronger as I continued down the sidewalk. I was 40 minutes from home, so not that much more to walk. When I reached the residential area of my house, he should back off. As if on cue with me speeding up, I heard him pick up his pace as well, the steps becoming louder and faster as he started to close the gap between us. A street light passed over me and very soon passed over him as well. Turning around, the street light had illuminated the person under the bedsheet. It was a large man, his head upright as he looked right at me, his eyes following my every movement. I stopped in my tracks, turning around to confront him. What do you want?" I yelled at him, only to watch him stop in his tracks. The eerie silence that followed showed just how silent the world around me was. The whole city seemed to hold its breath. I couldn't even make out a far-off car, just a horrible quietness, showing just how alone I was. I waited for a response, but the man just waited in response, his eyes never leaving me. Keeping my eye on him, I crossed the street, watching his head slowly turn as it followed me. I continued to back up on the sidewalk, keeping my eyes on him as he continued to wait. I turned to continue my walk, only to hear feet slamming against the floor behind me again. I turned to see he was back on my side of the sidewalk, continuing his walk at me. I couldn't take it anymore, turning to sprint away, the sounds of my feet slamming into hard pavement echoing down the empty street. My legs burned, my lungs heaved as adrenaline was dumped into my body. I ran with all my might, hearing the sounds of his footsteps slowly fade into the distance. I finally slowed down a mile down the road, breathing hard as the run shifted into a slow walk. My legs had started to give out after the long walk, followed by a sprint, begging for a moment to sit down. I sighed with relief as I turned into my neighborhood, the feeling of safety relieving the tension I had through my body. I was almost home. A few blocks into my neighborhood, I started to write off my encounter. Probably was just some drug addict playing a prank on me. I felt my body tense back up as I heard his footsteps behind me once again. I looked back in horror as the man had somehow followed me, his footsteps echoing down the street as he started to close the distance between us. I turned to run, my legs screaming against it, only getting a light jog out of them as my body began to shut down. I didn't make it that far before I was forced back into a walk, my home only 6 blocks away. I turned behind me only to see the man standing in silence, no longer walking. Had he finally given up? I turned back around to my home only to hear his footsteps screaming down the street. I turned around in horror as he pulled the sheet off of him, his shirt caked in blood, his mouth forming into an angry scowl As his eyes glared at me, his arms were stretched outward as he sprinted towards me, his fingers covered in what seemed to be dirt. The sounds of his steps filled my mind as I turned and joined his sprint, sprinting towards my house as my body dropped every ounce of adrenaline it had left. I could hear his footsteps growing louder as he closed the ground between us, but I didn't dare look back. I kept my eyes on my home, watching it grow larger and larger as I grew closer. I turned into my yard, jumping the fence and scrambling to pull the keys from my pocket, only to watch them fall to the floor. I shook as I picked them up from the floor, glancing behind me, only to see the man standing outside the gate of my yard. I felt my body fall backward as I collapsed to the floor, my legs finally giving out. I sobbed as I raised my arms, defending myself from the coming attack, yet it never came. I lowered my arms to look at the man. He was still standing outside the fence, refusing to enter. He looked at me with eyes filled with rage, as if I personally did something to offend him. He didn't utter a word, didn't take a step toward me, just turned, put the sheet back on himself, and walked the way he came. My eyes didn't leave him until he left the block, turning only to quickly unlock the door, to back myself into my home. I locked every lock that night, checked, double-checked, and triple-checked to make sure everything in my house was locked down. Blinds closed, back door locked, house alarm on, even barricaded my door in fear that he would return. After charging my phone so I could turn it back on, I called the police, but they couldn't even find him. Patrolling my neighborhood and the areas around it yielded nothing. They told me they'd check again tomorrow, that I should get some sleep and come down to the police station to put in a report tomorrow. Despite what happened to me, I fell asleep quickly, my body exhausted from everything. My dreams quickly turned into nightmares as the worst of my fears bubbled up from my subconscious. I dreamed that he caught me, taking a bite out of my neck as my blood joined the blood on his shirt, that he was angry that the chase for his prey ended so soon and so anticlimactically, that he broke into my home, the sounds of glass shattering sounding so real in my dreams, that his footsteps were growing closer as he approached my room, sounding as if they were in the hallway right outside my door.